You listen to much Lindsey Buckingham?
Not as much as I should.
I just love his playing.
Great player.
Yeah.
Steve Stine, how are you, sir?
I am good, Dan. How are you?
I'm good, man. Hey, thanks for being here. Appreciate it always. Thanks to all of you for being here and joining us. Steve and I are always amazed when anybody shows up to anything that we do. We're happy and excited to see you. Thank you for being here. Today we are going to be doing another acoustic guitar workshop for you. We're going to be talking about playing off the beat, a little bit of syncopation. And today we're going to be studying a song called Rhiannon by Fleetwood Mac, which is going to show you this idea. If you want to learn how to do that, keep watching. If you want to learn how to play your acoustic guitar, take it to a complete new level, you can check out Steve's new course. It's called Acoustic Guitar by Steve Stine, available at guitarzoom.com. Take it away, my friend.
All right. Well, I'm going to play the intro to this song, just the little beginning. I've always thought this was really cool. Like, oftentimes, because I grew up the way I did playing the music that I did with rock stuff and things, everything was always strumming. And then if I did finger picking, it was always, like a pattern or something. And I remember learning Rhiannon and thinking it was so cool how you have this bass line. And that's all it is. But then you've got this melody that's going on top of it, and sometimes the melody lines up with the notes that you're picking with your thumb, but sometimes it doesn't. So you got to be really careful. You got to really concentrate when you play and learn how to play both on and off the beat. So for instance, what I'm doing here, let me just break this down. So I'm going to take just the A part. So I'm playing just the A, the note A, the fifth string there with my thumb, just constant. I'm going to slow it down a little bit, but... And that's all you're going to do. Now, the other part that you're going to do is this. So what I'm doing there is I'm starting off with an A minor. I'm playing 1 and 2, second string, third string, first fret, and second fret. And I'm just moving it up a whole step. And then I'm going to the 5s. So that's the first thing I'm doing. And the rhythm would be... So if I think about my bass line, the first one I pick would be all together, but the next one happens in between the bass notes. So I have to pick this with this chord. This one happens in between, so I just pick these two, and then I go back to my thumb again. So it's not like it's together. You've got to get used to being able to play on the offbeat. So that's the hard part. That's going to take a little while to get this. That's why I think it's just so much fun. So if we just break it down in little pieces, we have bum, 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 bum. And then we have... So let's put those together. So what they're going to sound like is this. And ultimately what's happening is I'm playing all three of these together, right here, all three of these strings. Then I play this bass note, and then this, and then a bass note. So the only time they're all together is on the very first one. Okay? Now I'm going to work my way backwards. And when I work my way backwards, I'm going to go to this 3 and 4, play them all together, and then back here, and play all those together. So I have... So in your head, it's kind of like rubbing your stomach and tapping your head at the same time. You have to get used to, I mean, it's going to feel very sort of robotic when you first start doing this because you're not really feeling the ostinato bass going on here. But after you do it for a little while, you see, you got to keep that going. So it's a great little thing to practice if you're into finger picking and that sort of thing. Is not always, we build patterns. And we've talked about that before, and we talk about it in the guitar course. We've talked about it in one of the sessions that we did as well, where this is entirely different because it's a pre-constructed idea, right? You actually have to practice this. You're not just improvising an idea. And you just get used to doing that over and over and over. So there's a little more to this, but I'm gonna stop there in case you have anything.
Well, first of all, it's super cool to hear, and it is completely different than the other things we've talked about. This syncopated rhythm is something that's kind of tricky, guys, but once you get it, it's kind of like riding a bike. You never really forget. And once you kind of get the groove of the syncopated rhythms, we're talking about Fleetwood Mac. We're talking about this tune, Rhiannon. And I also wanted to mention a couple of resources we have for you guys. This session that we're doing for you right now, as you come in today, if you're just joining us, we're doing the Fleetwood Mac, we're doing the Rhiannon, we're doing some finger picking, which is all about syncopated rhythms and kind of playing off the beat, if you will. All of these acoustic workshop videos will be available for you on the playlist on the YouTube channel. The playlist is called Acoustic Guitar Workshop, and it's available on the Steve Stine channel. The guitar course that all of the stuff comes from is Steve's new course. It's called Acoustic Guitar by Steve Stine, and it's available at guitarzoom.com. Go ahead, my friend.
Okay, so you start with that, and again, you want to take this really slow, sometimes almost painfully slow, to try and get used to feeling that, like Dan was just saying, feeling it off the beat. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to keep going. So what we're going to do next here is I'm going to come from this A minor that I'm on right here, and I'm going to go open. And know that anytime you have something fast, bum, bum, right? If you think about it, my bass note is doing this. We think of these as quarter notes. So anytime my rhythm goes bum, bum, the second one is obviously going to be off the beat from where the bass note is, right? Bum, 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 bum. So if you sing in your head and even clap your hands, you can get a feel for what you're trying to do with your thumb and your other fingers. Dun, 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 right? So this is what we've got so far. Well, that is going to be off from the thumb, right? Because that's like eighth notes. So it's like the second eighth note that's going to be off from the thumb. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down and play the other part of the A chord. I'm playing the third and fourth strings at the second fret. And again, it's on the offbeat. So if we think about it, bum, 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 bum. This, what I'm showing you right now, reminds me of when I used to play in a band that traveled around the tri-state, well, the upper Midwest, really. And we all played and we all sang. We were a three-piece, and everybody in the band sang. And some songs you'd sing are really, really easy with your guitar, but some songs you'd sing like your guitar is doing something completely different than your voice is doing. And I would literally sit and I would just practice doing this over and over and over, trying to get used to feeling what my guitar and what my voice, how different they were. So it's okay for you, even though your kids or whatever might make fun of you, it's okay to clap your hands and say this out loud, right? Just
Absolutely.
Get used to thinking it, bum, 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 bum. And you can always slow it down, right? So as I'm going, and right there, I end with those two A's. Now I can teach the rest of this little intro, Dan, or if you think that's enough, but that's what we've got so far, is just, you've got to break each part down as you go. And what I remember doing with this is I would practice just, I would just add one each time. And then like that was my safe space. When I get to that one, they all converge together. And I would just keep practicing that. Well, the next one, they're together as well. But then I'm going to leave again, and then it all goes topsy-turvy at that point. I don't say topsy-turvy near enough. That's going to be my new word. You're going to hear it every lesson I do.
It's a great word.
Yeah. But that's the beginning. That's the first part.
Something just leapt to my mind when you were playing that, guys. I think one of the things that's really easy for us to do as musicians, guitar players, is to get overwhelmed by putting too many things together at once. And so, what Steve and I always talk about is this: when you're learning music, or you're learning a new technique, or in this case, this finger picking syncopated rhythm thing, don't try to do everything at once. Break it down. Remember back in the grade school, the lowest common factor or the lowest common denominator, right? Great
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the greatest common factor, lowest common denominator. Like, how can you reduce this equation down into its simplest possible form? And music is very logical. It's very mathematical, but it's also very emotional. And you have multiple layers that make up the sounds that go into your ear and your brain interprets, right? Not to get too weird on you, but when what you're hearing is you're like, oh, that's a cool tune, I want to learn it. If you can train yourself instead of just trying to dive in and to get it all like at once, there's two parts, and Steve may approach it differently, but for me, I always think there's two parts that I know I can separate. One is rhythm and one is the harmony. One is the chord, right? So if you can't play the rhythm yet, if you don't have it down, don't even try to play the chord. And we have a whole video, Steve did a whole video on strumming and scratching and completely eliminate chords from the equation. But in this particular tune, don't get overwhelmed by trying to do the finger picking, the ostinato bass, the chord changes, the rhythms, syncopations all at once. Break it down into a simplest possible form, which is, what is the rhythm? Like, what is the bass note doing? What is the melody rhythm? That's when Steve was clapping and talking. And then what are the actual chords? Learn the chords by themselves as slow as you possibly want. You know, take your time. You can take all day and just learn those chords. Don't even put them in any rhythm at all. Then learn the rhythm. Then try to put them together one step at a time. That's the way you learn music. I think far too many people just go, well, I can't play this, because they're trying to do it all at once.
Right. And I would add two things on top of that. Number one, it's human nature when you make a mistake to speed up, because your stress level goes up because you keep making mistakes. So every student I've ever had on the entire planet, every time they keep making a mistake, everything keeps going faster and faster and faster, and they don't realize it. It's just their heart rate goes up and they're getting tense, and so everything speeds up. And the trick with all of this is you've got to take it as slow as your brain will accept the information that you're inputting into your head. If you try and go any faster than that just because you want to get to the end of something or you want to accomplish something, it doesn't do any good. You just ultimately wind up spinning your wheels and wasting time. Mm-hmm. So one thing, again, I suck at a million things. I can't go out and, fix a tie rod on my car. I have no freaking idea how to do anything like that. But what I can do is analyze guitar parts. It's what I've thought about 75 billion times in my life. And so I'm very good at being able to break down a concept and then build it back up, which is why I get asked to play on things or played with bands or whatever it might be, is because I'm very efficient that way. And so the number one thing I learned was, if there's something that doesn't, if I can't see it clearly in my head, and when I say see it, like I literally can see my fingers. I'm looking off into space right now, but I can see my fingers. Bum, 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 bum. I can visualize that. I can see this hand going gong, 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 dun, dun, dun. I might not physically be able to play it, but I can visualize it. And if I keep the idea of having it slow, playing it slow in my head. The third thing is, I have to know the song, right? No, I don't have to know the song. But the better I know the song, the better I can hear the song in my head, the more I can replicate what I want to do, right? So for me, when I'm learning songs, I will listen to the song over and over and over and over until I've built a picture of the song in my head and all the little elements that go into the song. And it might take time. And here's the bottom line, is the last step that I want to get to here, is breaking things down into, as Dan said, breaking them into the smallest piece that you need to to make it make sense, right? The smallest piece might be, but that's too small, right? That's too small. One note is too small, but that's a piece, that's a legitimate small element that I have to restrain my thumb from wanting to pick, but yet allow the other two fingers to come into the guitar and pick. And then following that up with the thumb again, I have to feel that, and that's why I use the term topsy-turvy. I wanted to throw that in there, yeah. Because I can feel the juxtaposition of my hand wanting to pick these strings and then this fifth string. Well, then all of a sudden I start dialing in the dynamic, which we talked about in another video too. Like I don't want that. I got to try and balance this out. Right? And then I just keep building, whether I'm seeing this, and I really am. I'm visualizing my hands, and I'm hearing the song, and I'm not restrained by a tempo. I don't feel obligated to have to play it at a certain speed or something like that to be a hero. I'm okay dropping that speed down because I understand that if I drop the speed down far enough, I'm going to make a connection, it's going to click together, and then I can start building it back up.
I love it.
Yeah.
Steve, guys, I'm gonna make this point. I'm actually on Music Notes right now, musicnotes.com, and I am looking at the sheet music for this particular song that we're talking about. And one of the things, I got a kid who's, he's 18, and he's trying to learn the Scriabin etude on the piano right now. Right, it's really hard. And it was like 100 and something measures. Anyway, I was talking to him, and I was like, "Well," he was like, "Dad, do you think I can play this?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. It's really hard. You know, this Scriabin is not easy if you're a pianist, but how many measures is it?" I think it was like 100 something measures. So the point I'm driving at is, I said, "Well, do you think you can learn one measure a day?" One measure a day. And he was like, "Yeah, I think I can do that." Anyway, we figured out, okay, cool. If it's 150 measures, it takes you 150 days. Takes you a little over 3 months to learn this piece. And he's like, "Okay, I get it. I can do that." Because he broke it down into like, well, who couldn't learn one measure a day? I'm looking at this piece right now, or this song. It looks like, to me, it's 4 pages long. It looks like it has 1, 2, 3, basically about 3 measures per page. 1, 2, 3, 4 staves, about 12 measures. So we're looking at about 48 maybe measures to learn this entire song. If you want to learn it note for note, 48 measures. So if you learned one measure a day, it would take you basically 48 days to learn this particular song. I think it's really easy for us to get overwhelmed with like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on here. But Steve, if you can, the point that Steve and I are trying to drive home to you guys is that break things down into the smallest possible chunk that you can and just focus on that, and don't worry about like learn measures 2, 3, 4, and 5, or learn the next little section as you go. And then something that seems overwhelming is suddenly very doable.
Right. Well, and let me add this on top, because if with Dan's logic, think about it this way, because then when it comes back to me, the first thing, like, and again, this goes into a whole ear training thing, which is a whole nother discussion, but when I'm going to approach learning a song, the first thing I do is I start sussing out repetition. I listen to the song, I get a sense of what the song is doing, and then I suss out repetition and when this happens and when this happens, and this is logical, but then something weird happens here, and then it goes back to something logical again, and I start planning out in my head what I'm hearing on an organic level, because I love to listen to music. So again, I don't know everything, I don't know how the song goes, I haven't even looked into the tune, I'm just orally figuring out, and I suppose visually to a certain degree, because I'm always thinking about things as little Lego blocks. So with this song, if you think about it, there might be 48 measures or whatever, but really, there's probably only 14 different things that are actually not repetition, right? Or if even that, right? Because if you think about it, it goes... and it does it again. And she hasn't even started singing yet. So now Stevie Nicks comes in. And I can't do her voice, but there you go. And again, right? So we're already 20 some seconds, 30 seconds into the tune, and we haven't even changed anything yet.
Yep.
So that's another element to give you hope in learning these songs, is that you're not just learning measure one, you're learning a measure one or a measure two or a measure three or whatever combination that might be that's going to get repeated throughout the song. You know, there are those rare songs where they start and they go and they never return to anything. Like they make a forward motion and they never come back to anything that is memorable. The truth is, music doesn't usually do that because we like repetition. That's why we listen to music. That's why we sing songs, right? Is we like that coming back around where we go, oh, I want to rock and roll, right? We like that element. And the music yeah, that's right. And the music underneath does that just as much as the lyrics, the vocal parts up on top do. We just have to become aware of that. So anyway, that's
super cool.
Yeah.
No, this is great, man. I'll throw this out there too. This is something someone taught me years ago. I grew up in the classical world and it made a lot of sense then. This may or may not resonate with you guys, but I used to have a whole set of colored pencils. And so what I would do is I always learn stuff off of sheet music. So, you know, I would get the sheet music and I'd literally take red colored pencil, blue colored pencil, green, whatever. And I would take them and I would analyze the music and say, okay, you know, like that first little part that you're explaining there, to me, that would be like the blue section. And I would literally take my colored pencil and color it. And then the next little section, let's say a section we call green, I would literally color that. And then what would happen for me as I'm learning is I would actually, when I got away from the sheet music and I was actually playing it, I could literally say in my head, there was a connection in my brain between green, like this is the green section. Okay. And I immediately knew what that meant. This is the red section. And so as they're coming through, I'm kind of seeing these color patterns in addition to the kind of muscle memory that I'm building as well. And it helped me retain and remember and memorize things if I could associate the color with it, with also the sound. It's just one more element. Maybe that helps you, maybe it doesn't, but there's lots of different little mind tricks that you can use. But the big point is to recognize that these patterns are coming up over and over again. These chord progressions happen over and over again. The rhythm doesn't necessarily change, you know, it's going to got that same kind of driving beat, especially with rock and roll and blues and pop music and stuff like that.
Right. And that's one of the things about efficiency when learning songs, is that you've got to become aware of, you know, I've always called them red flags. You've got to be aware of the parts within the song that you're trying to learn that are clear. And by clear, I mean you can look through the window and you can see outside perfectly clear, right? That's what I'm trying to do with a song in my head, is I'm trying to visualize the song clearly. I'm moving from this to this, whatever those things are, a chord, a phrase, a measure, a sequence. I mean, it could be anything, but I'm moving from this to this. If there's any fuzziness, if there's cloudy, if that window is cloudy, I don't know it well enough. Something's going to break down. I have more chance of failure if I'm not clearly being able to see through this section and then anticipate. I always think of it like driving. It's, you know, you're driving your car and then you see a stop sign. So you're anticipating you're going to stop the vehicle. If you don't see that stop sign, you're going to go right through there and potentially wind up in an accident. That's exactly what music is to me, is I have to be able to see. I don't sit and see every song that I play laid out in front of me like little micro, you know, 5-minute thing. I don't see that. I drive through the song. So as I'm going through the song, I can anticipate that stop sign or that yield sign or whatever it is coming. And then when it gets there, I know what to do, just like when I'm driving. If I get there and I don't know what to do, it's not clear. It's cloudy. And I need to, this is how I think about it when I'm listening to a song, and then when I start trying to assess the song, and then obviously when I get my fingers on the guitar and actually start practicing, then there's the technical aspect of playing. But that's how I've always thought about it. And for me, what I've always taught people is red flags. Red flags are little markers that you put in different various parts of the song that are giving you issue. They're the cloudy parts, so you put a little marker there. And you're learning the whole song and everything's coming together, but that darn spot right there, or those two spots right there, those are your red flag spots that are going to need more time, more patience, more whatever you want to call it, to get those ready and prepared. Like when you play on stage a lot, you don't have a lot of room to be making all kinds of mistakes. You can laugh about them, and they do happen once in a while. But let's be honest, the less mistakes you make, the more gigs you get, right? So that's what I do with the songs that I learn, if that kind of makes sense, kind of going on top of what Dan said with the color too. It's absolutely true. Thinking about those sections differently, and then being aware that something's happening, a change is happening.
Yeah. Here's an idea for you. Steve's talking about the red flags. And, when you go through a song and you're like, oh man, the solo is coming up, that's a red flag for me, or this tricky rhythm or this chord change or this whatever. Don't fall in, like, this is a super common mistake I see people make all the time, which is they learn how to play the song start to finish. So guess which part of the song you can play best? The beginning. You know why? Because you played it 100 times, and maybe you only played the last part of the song 2 times, because every single time as they're learning a song, they start from the beginning and work through it. And then when they get to those red flag moments, they go off the rails. Instead of stopping and just focusing on that red flag, on that challenging part, and really locking it down, they just kind of like, it's like your stop sign analogy, Steve. They just start at the beginning and then they just cruise right through the stop sign every time, or they completely go off the, have the wreck or whatever at the stop sign. So one thing I try to encourage people to do is that, there's a time to play straight through the song. Great. But identify for you what those red flag moments are in that song. And then when you sit down to practice, start with the hard parts. It takes a ton of discipline to do this, but start with the hard part and actually get it locked down. So when you get there, you can actually cruise straight through and you don't actually have a train wreck.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously, at some point, you want to remove those red flags. You can't keep them in your songs. So if you think about it like a Lego piece, that piece right there, you need to pull that off. You need to extract that Lego piece. And now you need to practice that Lego piece. And then this is, again, I don't want to get long-winded here, but what I've actually learned is you could practice that Lego piece, that one piece that needs work. You can practice and refine that. And that's really important. And you absolutely 1,000,000% need to do that. But you also now need to practice connecting that Lego piece to the other 2 pieces that surround it. Because it's not just this piece. It's the connection of the pieces before and after it that you have to get comfortable for. So you might get really good at this piece and do it as fast as the song needs to be. That's great. But then what you need to do is place it back in there, slow down a little bit, and get used to coming from and going to the prior and the former, or the prior and the future piece that are coming up. So now it becomes a seamless piece. Then you can go back to the beginning and start practicing. But that's something that people forget, is they'll practice that piece over and over and over and over. But what they won't do is practice the entrance and the exit of that piece to those other pieces. And so it's just really important to break those down.
Dude, this has been fantastic. I like this whole clinic on how to learn songs. I hope you guys are getting this.
Yeah.
This is good stuff. Sorry, man, I don't want to derail you. What else you got?
I think that's good. I think the conversation, the thought process for me is always more important than just a song or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, the song's great, but learn to think about things properly, and that way you'll become far more efficient with your practice and your performance and your songwriting and everything else that you're doing.
Yeah. Guys, if you want to learn songs, a great place to start is playsongs.com. Steve's got a lot of tunes in there for you. I think a couple 100 songs now or something like that, something crazy. It's an annual membership, and you get lots and lots of songs broken down. That's playsongs.com. If you want to check out Steve's course, it's called Acoustic Guitar by Steve Stine. It's available for you at guitarzoom.com. Lots of people already signed up for it. Lots of people already loving it. And thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe and you hit the old notify button. Be notified of the next acoustic workshop. Don't forget the playlist is on the YouTube channel for you. We really appreciate you being here. We hope you got value from it. If you did, please like, share, and comment. And check out the course if that's what you're into. Cool?
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me here, Dan, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. My pleasure always, man. Talk to you soon. Bye, guys. Thank you for being here.